Hi everyone, I'm Natalie and I'm a third year history student studying at Jesus College, Oxford. A little bit more about me, I'm from Milford Haven in Pembrokeshire. I went to Milford Haven Comprehensive School and I was a part of the Seren network when I was in year 12 and 13. So I'm so excited to be back here to present to you all and to give back to the Seren network because I know it helped me so much when I was applying to Oxford. So within this presentation, I'm just going to run through some key dates and deadlines to be aware of within the Oxbridge admissions timeline. I'm going to give some general top tips that I would give to you for those who want to apply, and also I'm going to be highlighting some absolutely amazing resources brought to you by Inside Uni. It's a non-profit organisation that I'm Oxford Outreach Lead for, and it's just a great tool to be aware of. So more on that later. Let's get into the presentation. Okay, so I've got the Oxford timeline on the right here, and this is for the 2022 entry. 2023 hasn't been released yet, but do keep checking the Oxford website and the Cambridge website because dates may change when you apply in year 13. Although they stay kind of similar every year, they might change and you don't want to be missing crucial deadlines. So the Oxford one recommends that in around June, you start looking into your subject and whether you want to do that subject, and then once you've got your subject, take a look at the individual course for all the universities that you're applying to and see which ones are for you, basically. Because from personal experience, I know I find the Oxford history course to be great. I think it's really expansive geographically wise and time period wise, but it might not be for everyone. So just take a look, research, see if it appeals to you, and that's the same for Cambridge too. And then once you've got the course, you think, right, I want to apply to Oxford, I want to apply to Cambridge, then start doing some supercurricular activities around summer that you can put on your personal statement for when you come to write it. So supercurriculars are extracurriculars but more academic. They're kind of indicators that you've gone above and beyond what you've done in school, and you're exploring your subject from different avenues. So for history, for instance, that could be you've read books that aren't on your curriculum, you've read articles, you've listened to podcasts, you've watched TED Talks and they've really inspired you and you've got some thoughts on them. So that's what you can do around the summer. Same for Cambridge. And then around this time, you need to look to see if you've got an admissions test. So not all courses will have admissions tests, but a lot of them will. And you need to get your school to register as a test centre, because you'll have to do the test there. So do all of this pre-planning so you're not super stressed and you don't miss deadlines. Also, take a look at each college. Colleges are little communities. I applied to Jesus College because it's the Welsh college. Every college has kind of different reps and different vibes, I guess, but ultimately everyone does love whatever college they end up at. And you can also apply it for an open application, which basically means that you apply and get put wherever. So just do your research in that, and same for Cambridge with that as well. I know that Cambridge tend to do their pre-interview assessments and their kind of admissions tests on interview day, but there are exceptions. So early November, the pre-interview assessments for certain subjects, you've got to, that's the deadline for that. So take a look and get everything organised. And I know that they do an SAQ, and that deadline for this year was the 22nd of October. This is kind of just extra supplementary information that about documenting your own individual circumstances. So make sure you don't miss that. And then the UCAS deadline is usually on the 15th of October, so just make sure you're organised and you're ready for that deadline, because Oxford and Cambridge have an earlier deadline, a UCAS deadline to other universities. So just make sure that you're ready to go with that. And then for Oxford, the admissions tests usually come around in early November, and then interviews are December. And for this year, as it says on that chart, they're going to run from the 1st to the 20th of December. and then the decisions come out in January 22nd. So it's kind of a whirlwind, but it's, if you break it down in small chunks and you start early and you get a list of all the key deadlines to apply for things, so registering for a test centre, the UCAS deadline, you've got everything in order, you'll be fine, but just be organised. Okay, so as I said before, I am Oxford Outreach Lead for Inside Uni, and I'm just going to quickly run through just some of our resources that we have on offer on our website, and all of these things are available and they're free to use to absolutely everyone, and they'll be really beneficial for you to use in year 12 and 13. So what drew me to Inside Uni was the fact that it was run by students for students. We're made up of about 50 Oxbridge students, and we crowdsource information to make it, as I said, freely available for students to get an insight into Oxford and Cambridge. And this would have been so useful for me as someone applying from Milford Haven. I knew absolutely nobody that went to Oxford and Cambridge, so having this extra insight and this extra knowledge helping me navigate the admissions process would have been so useful, because I was essentially going in blind. So we basically tell you how we got in, and yeah, it's just amazing. So please check out our website, insideudi.org. We've got guides on there, like really specific guides for every different kind of student. We recognise that there's no typical Oxbridge student, so we've got a guide for Welsh applicants, which might be of particular interest to all of you, just highlighting what kind of opportunities and resources that are available to you as a Welsh student that you might not know that are available to you. We've also got subject guides, we've got course guides, which help you figure out what subject you want to do, the subject guides. And then we've got really specific course guides. So the one I've got on the slide now is for economics at Cambridge. It outlines an overview, it gives an overview of the course, it gives you things to explore, and it also gives you application resources for that specific course. So everything is just very specific, and it gives you a great insight. And then we also have videos and online events, so webinars and Q&As. These are amazing. We've got on there life as a Welsh student. We've got how to make the most of your gap year. We've got perspectives from Black students and experiences from disabled students. We just cover a lot of ground, and it's going to be useful to so many of you from different backgrounds. So please do check out those videos. And we also have a new blog which just give extra little nuggets of advice. So we've got interview advice on there, we've got a week in the life, did so many different things to kind of give you insight. So yeah, check those out, definitely. On our website, we also have admissions test guides for every single admissions test done at Oxford and Cambridge, which are just crucial. So go check them out. It just kind of lists ways of how to prepare, the basics of the admissions test. As you can see, I've got the HAT test for Oxford up on the screen, advice on how to get started, and just various links which are just great. And I think one thing that Inside Uni does really well is harnessing that student voice. And that's indicative of our interview insights, and we've got around 3,000 interview insights, which are first-hand experiences of students that have gone through interviews. They're customizable. You can customize them by subject, by college, and you can also show online interviews only. So I'm not sure what format your interviews are going to be, but just in case, we have online interviews ones too. Again, all on the website. So now I'm just going to run through my quick fire top tips. I've mentioned this before: explore your subject. Really take the time to figure out if that subject is what you want to study for 3-4+ years at university. So read beyond the school syllabus, listen to podcasts like In Our Time. That's a great series, and watch TED Talks. I used a TED Talk in my personal statement. So yeah, just explore different ways. Number 2, don't be put off by the stereotypes. I think a lot of what held me back, so I applied on I applied on my gap year post results day, and I didn't apply sooner because I didn't believe I'd ever get in, and I couldn't really be bothered to go through the whole thing. So stupid. If you're a part of the Seren network, you have a shot at going to Oxbridge because there's no typical Oxbridge student. Give it a go. It's one of your 5 choices. Just believe in yourself and go for it. And number 3, research Oxford and Cambridge. It's not for everyone. Have a look and see ways you can get involved and actually see the university itself. So look at the courses they offer. Go to open days if you can. Go on the Seren summer school. Go on the Unique summer school. That's what I went on and I loved it. There's also the Sutton Trust summer school. These are free residentials, and it's a great way to see the city because you're not just applying for the university and the course, you're applying to live in the city too. So really try and get that insight. Also, sign up to mentoring platforms like Zero Gravity. I'm a mentor there. I mentor history students in year 13 that want to go to Oxford, and it's just great. They'll give you mock interviews, they'll give you insight, they'll give you advice, they'll give you more resources. They'll usually point you towards inside uni. So get involved in ways that might be like, less traditional. There's less traditional ways of just going to your school and asking for a mock interview. So those would be my top tip advice. Good luck with the rest of your academic year. Have a lovely Christmas, and good luck if you do decide to apply. Thank you.
Well, croeso mawr, a very warm welcome to this information, advice and guidance session. Y pwnc dan sylw heddi yw cyrraedd Rhydychen a Chaergrawnt, Oxbridge admissions. And thank you for all the questions that have come in. There are loads of questions. There are some that replicate themselves in different ways, and some are more honest than others in their questioning. But I can promise you we will have honest answers from our panel of experts, people who are in charge of admissions, people who have just experienced that, and people who can give you some sound advice, because you're probably feeling quite wary about the thought of all of this. But before we go into that, I want you to introduce yourselves, please. My panel, my selected panel for the day. And I'm going to start with Sandy. All of you, please, can you just tell us who you are, your role, and where you are at the moment? Sandy, take it away.
Siamai, Sandy Mill, dw I, Widening Participation Officer, Coleg Churchill, Prifysgol, Cambridge. I've been doing the Duolingo course over lockdown. My name's Sandy Mill. I'm the Widening Participation Officer at Churchill College at the University of Cambridge. I've worked with students across Wales since around about 2015. Working with Seren and doing a lot of information and guidance session, as I've been an admissions tutor at one of the Cambridge colleges, and as I now work for Churchill College, working with all the Seren hubs in South and West Wales.
Thank you, Sandy. And I love the way you say Seren. I've listened to some presentations before.
It's that I picked up a lot of the North Wales from working in there for 3 years. It's nice, I like it.
Diolch yn fawr I ti, Sandy. And next on the screen, to your left on my screen, Natalie, tell us who you are.
Hello everyone, I'm Natalie. I'm a third year history student studying at Jesus College, Oxford. I'm originally from Milford Haven in Pembrokeshire, and I'm also Oxford outreach lead for an organisation called Inside Uni, and I'll probably speak a little bit more about that later.
Thank you, Natalie. And obviously, some of the students will already seen the little video from you, which has given them some top tips already. So we're furthering that today in this session, hopefully. Croeso mawr I ti, Natalie. Jason, over to you next.
Hi there, everybody. So my name is Jason. I'm a Seren alumni, and I'm studying PBS at the University of Cambridge, Churchill College, and I'm originally from Swansea.
Oh, Croeso, Jason. And over to Jacques on my top right-hand corner.
Hello everybody, I'm Jacques and I'm a second year mathematician at St Catherine's College in Oxford, and I'm originally from Cardiff, as well as being a Seren alumni too.
Brilliant. Croeso mawr I ti, Jacques, hefyd. Great to have the four of you on screen. I feel you're in this room with me. Well, the first of the questions, I think, has to go to Sandy. And the question says, how do Oxbridge admissions differ to admissions to other British universities? So we'll start on that kind of level.
So, in a nutshell, they differ because the processes are slightly different. Actually, I mean, weirdly, the processes at almost all universities in the UK are very slightly different. They may expect slightly different things, but the headline figures really. First up, if you're applying to Oxford or to Cambridge, you'll be going for the October 15th deadline for all subjects. If we're talking about other UK universities, you would only be doing that deadline if you are studying medicine, dentistry, or veterinary medicine. But for any of our subjects, everything from Asian and Middle Eastern studies to zoology, you're going to be applying 15th of October. The second main difference is that there are a number of additional steps that we may ask for as part of your application process. In some subjects, you may be asked to submit some essays that you've done or do an admissions assessment. And in almost all cases, if you are someone that we're really closely looking at, you'll be invited to interview. Around about 70 to 80% of students that apply to us are invited to interview each year, typically at the beginning of December. And then our application process finishes around about mid to late January when we release our offers to students or say, unfortunately, we haven't been able to offer you a place. So it finishes earlier, involves a few more steps than some other universities. But it is worth noting that other universities will use admissions assessments, ask you for additional bits of written work, and they may interview in some subjects as well. We just typically do this across the board in pretty much all of our subjects. And if you have a look at our websites, you'll find details as to what each subject requires. Some have assessments, some don't. Some want written work, some don't. You can find all of those details there. And I would encourage you to do the same for every other university that you're thinking of applying for as well, because again, there may be those slight differences in the processes that you want to get a handle on. Make sure you've got them all written down, noted down in your head, to make sure you're doing all the things you need to make sure your application is competitive and make sure that you're meeting all of their requirements.
Yeah, that's really good advice, Sandy. Although we might think Oxbridge system is one system, all the others are the other system. Not the case, obviously.
And please note as well, all of our colleges can have slightly different requirements as well. So that makes it a little bit more complicated. It does mean a little bit of website searching is going to be useful. And don't assume that Oxford and Cambridge's systems are the same either. They're two different universities, even though we use the term Oxbridge quite a lot to pair them up. They're not the same place. I remember a friend of mine who was working at another college got stopped in the street once a few years ago by someone who asked if he could show him where the Bodleian Library was. And he was like, unfortunately, that's in Oxford. That's about 200 miles away. It turns out he'd taken his holiday to completely the wrong town because he thought Oxbridge was a real place. It's not. There's Oxford and Cambridge, and we are two separate places.
Thank you, Sandy. I will come to Jason, Jacques, and Natalie in a moment, but there's a next question. I think I have to apply it to you because I thought I knew the answer, but I didn't. Can I apply to both Oxford and Cambridge?
In almost all cases, no. We would get you to pick one or the other. And part of the reality of this is we're already heavily oversubscribed. At Cambridge, it's about 6 applicants per place overall. And if we allowed people to apply to both, we would be doubling that quite easily. It's a historic thing that goes way back. There is one vague exception, and that is if you're applying for an organ scholarship, you can apply to both, and that has an even earlier applications process. You can technically apply to both. To be an organ scholar, you have to be someone who has played a literal, pipe organ type thing for many years, be well practiced, and you'd be expected to be playing that within a college chapel environment as part of your studies and as part of your sort of conditions of being there. So it's really only for people who are committed, experienced organ players. So if that's you, by all means, have a look at that scheme. In all likelihood, it's probably not, at least statistically. So don't worry about it. For most people, it's one or the other, I'm afraid.
Thank you very much, Sandy. Time for the others to have their say now. Now, Jacques, I know you love your music. Maybe not organ playing or pipe organ playing. It's more jazz, I believe. But there are a few questions here on how do you stand out? How does you as Oxford students, how can you make yourself stand out during the whole process? So one of the questions says, what stands out in a personal statement for Oxford universities? So, John, how did you approach this? What did you think? How did you make yourself stand out in your application, in your opinion?
Right. So I know for me, with my personal statement, when it came time to writing it, I think, first of all, starting early is important because it'll generally take a lot of forms and you'll have a lot of drafts over the over the weeks and possibly months that you're preparing it. I think it's important to have an element of really sort of exploring your subject beyond its syllabus to show that you're able to sort of further your knowledge past what you'd learn in A-level, which is generally pretty limited, although it does get difficult and there's a lot of depth. For each of these subjects, there's such a sort of a broad depth of knowledge where even things that may seem niche, you can spend hours and hours reading about or studying about or learning about. So I think showing some kind of initiative in that way, something that you found interesting about your subject, whether if you're studying maths, it be cryptography, any sort of thing like this. I think that was important for me, and I know for a lot of other people who applied to Oxbridge. And past that then, I think I made an active effort to try and show how I'd be able to use the different subjects I took at A-level in a productive way when applying to my degree. Now, I think that's not always something you think about when you apply for your when you choose your subjects for your A-levels. But nevertheless, there will be transferable skills that you can get. Whether you're doing a more essay-based subject and that sort of, essay writing techniques and stuff will help you with extended questions in a STEM subject. There's all sorts of transfer between subjects, so really tapping into that. As well as letting the admissions tutors and stuff know what you enjoy doing, giving a little bit of yourself and some kind of hobbies towards the end.
Thank you, Jack. Yes, because sometimes you think you've got to say the stereotypical answers, but yeah, be yourself, prepare and be yourself. Is that what you did, Jason? Because one of the questions, the way it's worded is, how can I match and surpass the standards of my competitors?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So I think I definitely agree with what Jack said about the sort of like supercurricular reading. To be honest, like if you're interested in a subject, I feel like that's something you kind of do quite naturally. I mean, what I did for that section is that I picked up a book that looked really interesting to me, and I talked about it, but also coming at it from the other end, what can I critique about it? What other academics have said about this book? And yeah, that entire process I found really fulfilling, and I am pretty sure it probably stuck out then. Yeah, I don't know, it's a tough one, but I think explore your subject and yeah, be passionate about it.
I suppose showing your desire to explore as well, but you wanting to do that yourself. Natalie, what did you do? And then we'll come to Sandy on this.
Yeah, so just to echo what everyone else has said, really, I think supercurriculars are really, really important. I think what I was told anyway was with Oxford and Cambridge, the personal statement, the kind of personal statement you write to gear towards those universities is there's a lot more emphasis on academics and supercurriculars than there is extracurriculars. So I'd say it's about like 80% supercurricular academic content and then 20% extracurriculars. So by supercurriculars, just what we've said, like showing demonstration that you're going above and beyond what's expected from you in terms of exploring your subject. And even with your extracurriculars, maybe sometimes it relates. So for instance, I spoke about drama and how I was really interested in drama, but I linked that to how it furthered my interest in history because we got to understand more about the historical context of the play. So I referenced like Oliver and the Victorian times of poverty and stuff like that. So yeah, and then I just referenced podcasts, books, TED Talks is a really good one, just different avenues. You don't have to read all the time. And I also went on the unique Oxford summer school. which just kind of demonstrates how you're taking the initiative to apply to these things and how it's kind of enriching your learning and just stuff like that, really. And yeah.
It's really interesting. Supercurricular, extracurricular. Sandy, what's your take on this, being there at the helm?
Agree with everything that is being said there. And the reasoning for it is by doing this supercurricular study, this extra study that is linked to the subject that you want to do at university, you're demonstrating the skills of a university-ready student. The ability to independently go out and read and research things, to follow your own interests. You're developing good sort of study skills and thought processes that are really relevant to our universities. It shows that you're able to go above and beyond just what is on that syllabus and start to become an educational explorer. So really, really vital. Go and geek out. It's the way I always put it. Yeah, but let your geek off the chain. Go and enjoy your subject. Not just explore it, enjoy it as well. It should be about the things that interest you. To come at a slightly different angle as well, what we're looking at from an admissions perspective, all of that is incredibly important with the personal statement. If you want to know how to make your application stand out compared to the rest of the field as well, a couple of good hints. Firstly, do really well in your ASs. Quite blunt and simple. You do AS levels, many other people in the UK don't, but those are official examinations and we want to see top results in them. If you get really good quality results, we're looking for those A's and preferably really strong A's, high what are called UMS scores, marks which go behind it, will very much help your applications. So let's not make any bones about that. Do well in your ASs. Some people will say they don't matter. They are wrong. They matter incredibly for the top universities. Secondly, prepare well for things like admissions assessments, because again, those are heavy hitters in terms of things that we look at in order to determine an application, how it compares to the rest of the field, particularly because that assessment will be taken by everyone who's applying to that college or to that subject for us. So it provides a great point of comparison, whereas we'll have people doing different exam systems applying to us. This gives us one nice and easy comparable point between candidates, which is why we do it. We don't just do it to put you through an extra step. It gives us some, good solid grounding to work on to make good comparisons. So prepare well for those. Make sure you know about them in advance. And in the case of all of this, preparing personal statements, preparing for admissions assessments, interviews as well, we can bring into this category. Seren was going to be running sessions with you on these. I've been doing these sessions for many years. So use those sessions, please. You have, access to all the knowledge you're going to need, every little sort of hint and tip that we can give you coming from the insiders ourselves, students who have been through it, people who are working in the admissions process. So take advantage of that. Take advantage of every opportunity that you're getting through your hubs, because your hubs will give you brilliant opportunities to expand your skills, enhance your learning, dive deeply into those subjects you love, do those supercurricular things. By engaging with your hubs in that way, with all the people that are in your hub, you are strengthening your skills, you are strengthening your applications. So that's the third and final tip. Do Seren stuff, it will help.
Thank you, Sandy. And I've sat in one of Sandy's sessions on preparing for interviews. It really, really is useful. Jason, did you have to face an interview?
I did, yes.
Tell us.
I remember because I had to come the night before and I stayed the night, and I remember being pretty nervous and anxious for it the night before. Up until that point, I thought, the nerves hadn't quite gotten to me yet, but when you're actually in that room, in the college that you've applied for, you're like, oh God, this is really happening, isn't it? But the moment I set foot in that interview room, the interviewers, they were very supportive, and they very much put my mind at ease. And it really was a discussion, about a subject that I found really interesting. And the moment you get thinking about the questions they're posing and having a dialogue with them, all that just goes out the window. And I came out of both interviews thoroughly enjoying it. Yeah.
Oh, that's proof of the pudding, Jason. When you talk dialogue, it's not a Q&A, and hopefully that's what we're replicating in this session. It's a conversation about things, desire to talk about things. Natalie, did you have to face an interview?
Yeah, I did. I faced 2 interviews. One, I had to analyze a source that I've never seen beforehand, and then straight away go in, discuss it. And then the other one was mainly based on my written work that I'd sent in. I came out crying of one of mine, but upon reflection, it just wasn't needed. It was a bit dramatic, really. It's just because I was so nervous, and I thought that I hadn't impressed them because I was really, really nervous. But I guess it just shows they don't want people that know it all. It's just kind of, it's how you think and how you take their kind of criticism. So like if you're discussing something like your written work and they kind of say something that's going to spark a debate, like taking on that and then kind of adjusting your answer or standing by your answer. But yeah, not being so closed off to other views, I think they really like.
So they were challenging you and you were challenging them back. So, and it was probably the relief, Natalie, when you came out of it. You felt quite emotional about it. Jacques, did you face an interview?
Yes, I had 4. So it was a rather busy few days of a week. I know for maths in Oxford, there's a convention where you are interviewed at least 2 different colleges. So you have your college you apply for, and you'll be assigned another one where you'd have at least 1 interview should you get to that point. And yeah, it was definitely a very scary sort of process, but something which was very valuable. I know for me it was my first time in the city, and that alone was sort of, yeah, a very different experience being alone in this brand new city, and a city like Oxford and Cambridge as well. They're just walking down the streets, you feel like you're walking through a novel. You feel like part of a history book. It is, yeah, a very interesting experience. But I remember with my interviews, being very nervous leading up to them, and I think once you start with the interviews, especially your first one, I think the nerves stick around. They don't leave straight away, but once you get settled into them, it does help. I remember actually with my first interview, the academic who was taking my interview was a German professor, and I was really struggling to make out what he was asking me, and I was like too shy to say that I couldn't understand what he was saying, so I thought he'd think I didn't understand, what content he was on about. But you have to sort of make clear with your communication, and I think communication generally is something that's very important. So you have to speak your mind during this, and you have to sort of let them know your thought process the whole way through, because especially if it's some kind of STEM subject where there is there's an answer that you're trying to get to. You might be trying to find a certain number, a certain amount of ways of things happening. You could get the right or wrong answer, and in a lot of times it doesn't matter. If you get the wrong answer and it's due to some kind of miscalculation or computation error, that's really not so important. But if you're thorough and clear with your communication on how you got to that point, I think everyone will have a better understanding of what's happened along the way.
Jack, you've taken me really neatly onto another question that we've got here, which is, do you prefer a student to give honest answers or right answers? And it also says here, what do Oxbridge actually want to hear about rather than having it there for the sake of it? So honest answers or right answers? Sandy, that's got to be you to answer this one.
Cool. Well, if it's okay, let's talk about the purpose of the interview, because that'll help us kind of understand both of these things. And the key purpose for the interview is we want to see how well you learn within our teaching systems. We get far too many applicants for the number of places that we've got each year. We're oversubscribed by about 6 times. So what we really want to find out is who's going to fit with our teaching systems the best. And at Oxford and Cambridge, those comprise of what we at Cambridge call supervisions. At Oxford, you call them tutorials, correct? Yep. I don't know why we can't have the same name for the same thing, but heck, it's Oxford and Cambridge. Basically, it's small group or one-to-one teaching, sessions of about an hour where there'll be you and a top academic in your field, or maybe a couple of students and top academic in your field, and you're going to have a conversation. It's a dialogue. This is discussive-based learning. Usually at least once a week. It can vary a little bit per subject, but I think once a week at least on average is a pretty good starting point for thinking about this. So we're looking for people who are going to learn really well through discussion and dialogue. And being a former secondary school teacher, I can tell you different people have strengths in learning in different ways. It's not just about having the top grades, and we'll frequently actually have students who come in with really stellar grades, but we find out during the interview process that this type of teaching and learning really isn't for them. And they're going to be better off going to another university because they'll be able to deal with a teaching system that's based on their strengths much more. So to swing this back around, by doing the interviews, we're going to see, do you learn in the way that we teach? We're going to put you in a supervision style environment or a tutorial style environment. If we want to see how well someone swims, you've got to put them in the water, right? That's what we're going to do, control conditions, but we're going to see how well you do that. So let's bring this back around to the two parts of the question. Would we prefer, honest answers or right answers? Both if we can get them, that would be ideal. But let's say that we've only got the option of one or the other. Honest answers. We want to see, and I want to double down on what Jacques said, your reasoning. We need you to talk us through your thought process, because actually if someone's got the right reasoning or good reasoning, maybe comes to the wrong conclusion, well, actually that's better because we can teach the knowledge. We can teach you how to get around that computational error. Yeah, well, you can spot that. But we want to see that you've got the reasoning and the thought processes to be able to, think around the subject. Bring it back to what Natalie said here. Thinking around the topics, thinking about having an open mind, bringing in new information, thinking about your own point of view and applying that to that, being able to argue and debate and think about different perspectives, not just dogmatically holding into one position, but being able to argue for a position with good reasons and explain all those. So we need to know how you think. We need to know you can go in that direction. Now, frequently those will lead to correct answers, if even correct answers are possible. Let's be quite honest, at university, actually the idea of the right and wrong answers being the be all and end all kind of goes out the window. Especially I've interviewed in lots of arts and humanities subjects. I was a philosophy student. There's almost no such thing as a right answer in philosophy. A little bit different in maths maybe. But, the idea of the right answer is something that actually, it's one of the hardest things that I found to push out of the secondary school sixth form mentality into a university mentality, and be able to accept that there isn't necessarily a right answer when I based my entire academic life on getting the right answer and basically using that as a test of my moral and actual worth, rightly or wrongly. We want to see your answers, your views, that honest answer and that reasoning above all else. When it comes down to, so I can tell a story about an old student of mine from when I was a secondary school teacher, and I later found they'd applied to Cambridge and got in. I found this one day actually started working at an outreach event I was on, which led to a really wonderfully awkward moment between the two of us when we realised, oh wait, I know you from somewhere. But anyway, I talked to her, I saw her do a mock interview for a group of students such like yourselves. And I spoke to her interviewer afterwards, and he told me that in her actual interview, she got completely the wrong answer about the case that they would been looking at. Like legally, it was the exact opposite. It wasn't quite this, but it was the equivalent of saying, guilty versus not guilty, and she picked the wrong one. But it didn't matter because her reasoning was so good. And the way that she was interacting with the interviewer was so good, taking on board new ideas, thinking about them, being critical and open-minded and having that discussion. That's great. And that was what got her the place. Yeah, regardless of the fact that she was factually incorrect at the end of the day. Facts we can teach. We're looking for the mindset that's going to succeed within our teaching systems. That answers the first part of your question. I'll admit I got really into that and then completely forgot what the second part was.
Yeah, honest answers or right answers, you've covered.
Yeah, well, I thought there was a second part.
Well, the other ones are, what do Oxbridge actually want to hear rather than just having there for the sake of it? Is there a prescribed answer?
We want to hear, so all of those things, your thoughts, your reasoning, your processes behind it. So please do, think out loud. Get used to doing that. Practice that over the next year, every step of your arguments. The other thing we want to hear, and this is one that some people do trip up on, especially those who really think they're right all the time or come in with a certain plan, we want to hear the answers to the questions that we ask you. Not what you think we want to hear, or not what you've prepared and are determined to say when you come in. As with any assessment or exam, answer the question that you are set, please. So think very carefully. I've had interviews before where it's quite obvious that they wanted to try and turn it to a certain angle. And actually, we're looking to assess different things here. So, be very careful, listen, Ask for people to repeat questions if need be, or repeat terms. If you're first language Welsh and you don't understand the meaning of a technical term, ask for it. Or if you're having trouble with someone's accent, please do ask. Yeah, that's fine. If you can't understand what I'm saying because I'm talking too fast because I've gotten excited, that's on me to slow down. Please ask me to, as you would, if we were having that conversation as teacher and student at university. So don't be afraid to ask for that, or ask for help if you need it. The teachable student asks for help when they need it. But letting us know what you need and letting us know your thought process is what we want to see.
Thank you. And do exactly what Sandy did to me then. I'd asked a double-pronged question, and by the time he'd deliberated, obviously, he'd forgotten a bit, but he admitted to that. He admitted that, well, I forgot, let's talk about it. So it's fine to be open and honest. So question back. Well, with all this hard work and challenging opportunities, an interview or personal statement, the next question is relatively simple. And I'm going to start with Natalie. What is Oxbridge like? Now, we know it's not one place, so what's your place like, Natalie?
It's really good. I do love it. I was scared to come once I had my place because I thought, oh gosh, like I'm not gonna have time to like do fun things. I'm not gonna fit in because everyone's from Eton, they're posh, whatever. But it's not the case. There's a lot of them, but it's not the case. And yeah, I do love it. I can't imagine being anywhere else. Like it's just, I feel so lucky when I'm walking around like every day. The libraries are amazing. The tutorial system is really great. You don't really get that kind of one-on-one or one-on-three maximum like attention. So that is really good. It is hard work, but I think you're going to have like up and down weeks, and as long as you do try to balance your time well, organize yourself, you'll be fine. But yeah, I do really love it, and you get a lot of support. At least my college, I get a lot of support from the tutors and the staff in general. Like they just really do care about their students, so I do love it.
Thank you, Natalie. And if you have a chance to look at the event box biog of Natalie, your enthusiasm for where you are really shines through. I've got to say that. Jason, what is it like for you? What's Cambridge like for you?
It's brilliant, yeah. So I think I really must agree with what Natalie said about like literally the support systems that are there. Everyone's really trying to support you, whether it's your director of studies, whether it's your tutor, your supervisors, your lecturers, really like everyone wants you to succeed and they're very supportive. And yeah, I think a lot of people, they have that like I guess misconception that, Oxbridge is all like very posh people walking around, but everyone here is surprisingly normal. So yeah, it's I didn't expect to fit in so as well as I did, and yeah, I'm really glad that I'm here. Yeah.
So it is worth that extra effort then, Jason.
Definitely, 100%.
And Jacques, I know that you've got sporting prowess and musical interest. So you managed to do that and your academic studies. So what's it like for you?
I think I have to echo what both of you guys have said as well. I do fully agree. I think, yeah, work-wise, it's it's a tall order, it's a tough ask. They work you hard. They keep you on your toes, but it's very rewarding. I know I've enjoyed sort of thoroughly the first year and especially the second year. I seem to be enjoying it more term by term, which is always fun. Yeah, I think it's important to try and make time for doing things that you enjoy, and that's what I've tried to do. So, and there's so many things to get involved with. There isn't enough time physically without a degree to do that, to do everything. But I think, yeah, finding something that you like or trying different things out. For example, I'm training with a powerlifting club and I'm competing in 2 days. Yeah, and then yeah, playing a lot of music with a jazz sock and these kind of things. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity to meet a lot of like-minded, interesting people. And I feel like you're already meeting like-minded people just by being here. But then by making the extra step, you're really finding people who you can align with. And I've met some very, very, very interesting people doing that. And yeah, couldn't recommend it enough.
And tell us, Jack, at what level are you competing soon?
So tomorrow, not tomorrow, on Saturday is a sort of regional competition, but I'll be competing at varsity in a couple of months' time, which is the sort of annual Oxford versus Cambridge showdown for any sport, which is always interesting.
I would wish you luck, but you're on the other side, so yeah.
You know what? There's some questions you shouldn't have asked. I don't think I should have asked that one, but I know you're working on national level as well in your sport. But with varsity, I'm going to park it there, right? Because I don't want to show any allegiance to either institution. I'll just call you Oxbridge.
I'm joking around. The rivalries are usually, actually, might as well say this, the rivalries are usually these little sporting things. It's like, you know, two brothers or sisters competing with one another. You know, it's good natured, it's friendly, and actually there's so much collaboration between the universities. I know it kind of gets blown up out of proportions that, you know, it's, you know, the two universities kind of at each other's throats, and they're really not. And, you know, even after all these varsity events, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, people go out together, you know, chatting, discussing, making friends with the other side, as it were. That's part of what it's all about.
Yeah, it's friendly rivalry and challenging, right, to get the best out of everybody. I'm going to come to you on that question then, Sandy, and we're coming towards the end of our conversation or dialogue or interaction today. Is it worth that extra effort? We've heard so much about the hard work involved. What would be your take on that, Sandy?
If the courses that we offer really interest you, if the way that we teach sounds like something that you really want to get into, if you love your subject and want to go to pretty much the ultimate geek out palace for them, where it's going to be intense, it's going to be in depth, where we're going to be pushing you as far as you can go and maybe just a little bit further just to see if it's possible, then it's absolutely worth going for. If you like the idea of the college system and being mixed in with students of, you know, brilliant ability in all different subjects in that sort of close environment, sharing ideas, sharing experiences, and supporting one another, it's absolutely worth going for. And I'm going to make no presumptions on what's right for you, because I don't know you. We're pre-recording this, so, you know, I have no idea of who is watching this. That's down to you, and your decisions are going to be the right ones for you because you know yourself. Get the information about these universities, any university you're considering, to consider, is it going to be the right one for you? But if you're up for that intense experience, if you want to, you know, explore your subject with some of the best resources in the country, and if you're really up for a conversation about what you want to learn, I think this is a fantastic place. I think Oxford's a fantastic place. I wouldn't be, you know, have been there as a student, come back there as a student right now. I'm currently studying for a doctorate. You know, I wouldn't be working for these universities if I didn't believe in them. And, you know, there's something weird about them. There's something special. You know, I took a break in between and then somehow got dragged back in. So there's something about them. Can't deny that.
Great to hear that. I want to talk to you about your PhD, but now is not the time to do that. But before we leave this call now, just some top tips. If you think of yourself back in year 12, first year, lower six, whatever you call it at college or school, you've just done your GCs. What would you tell that individual watching or listening? What top tip would you want to give that person? And I'm going to start with Natalie. I know you've touched on this in your video, but just how would you want to end this conversation?
I'd probably say research, like not just for the university, see if it's right for you, because it isn't going to be for everyone, but you do have to make that decision based on for you. Get organized, get your key deadlines in order so you don't miss anything, and research other opportunities available to you. So I think in around January, February time, it might even be later now, have a look at these summer schools. So the Sutton Trust, do one for Cambridge, Unique, do one for Oxford, the Seren network, do one. That's a great way. It's usually free, to like see the city. I don't know if they are doing it this year. Sandy,
it's worth noting early is a good time to start looking rather than later. A lot of these are now launching in January sort of time, so definitely be on the ball and maybe even start looking around now what sort of opportunities are available, so you can bookmark those pages and check them every couple of weeks to make sure you're not missing them. There will be stuff going on like this year. Some of them may be online, some of them may be in person. We're probably looking at some sort of hybrid model given the COVID situation right now. But they're all good, and you're going to be getting some good quality stuff. And even if an online thing is the only thing you've got, it's better than nothing, isn't it? So definitely apply and go for them. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that nobody missed the fact that I think Sutton Trust opens around January time, for example. The Oxford Unique ones, I think, are fairly early as well, if I remember correctly. Might be wrong on that. But yeah, get on that early.
Yeah, so research, and also we're on that more utilize online resources. So in year 13 you can apply for like mentoring schemes like Zero Gravity, where you'll be able to have mock interviews with current students, which is just like a great resource. So just make use of the online resources inside uni website. There's so many things out there for you. And just research and explore and see if it sounds like something you want to go for, and then just go for it. Like, believe in yourself. It's 1 out of 5 on the UCAS application. Just do it.
Thank you, Natalie. Top tips, Jack?
Oh, I think Natalie's done a very good job already, but I think, generally being early with things, don't hang around too long, don't wait for them to do themselves. I think, it seems like it can be scary and unattainable at times, but the only way you get in is by applying. So I think have faith in yourself and try and set yourself up as well as you can and try and show them the best version of you. So start nice and early, get ahead, get plans, go to open days, see the universities. Whilst you can know that you're applying, I suppose, to Oxbridge well in advance of the date you need to apply to, but not quite know which one. So I'd say maybe try and see them both if you're undecided. I only saw Cambridge before applying, actually, and chose to apply to Oxford, which sounds a lot worse than it really was, I promise. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences. So find what fits for you. And I think summer schools are a great chance for that. So start nice and early and try and enjoy it as much as you can.
Thank you, Jack. Great. Jason, what would you say?
I think my top tip would probably be a bit more on the sort of like academic side. So I'd say be honest with yourself when it comes to, I don't know, either your reading or your writing a personal statement, or you're just developing your own genuine thoughts about a subject. Am I agreeing with this thing just because some big name academic, they do, do I really believe this? Where where do you perhaps disagree with them? I think going over the thought process like that will really help you at your interview. And just approach things. All of this can be quite overwhelming. I'd say my top tip, go at it with an open heart. Be honest with yourself. Is this really something that that I want to do, or is is this something I want to do? And approach it with an open heart, curious, genuine, open heart.
Great comments, Jason. And I'll end up with Sandy. Last words from you, Sandy.
I'll give you 2. Firstly, don't sleep on your AS levels. Do really well and then prepare hard for them. They really do count. Secondly, and I think off the back of everything the others have said, go and geek out. Go and enjoy your subject. Go and explore it as much as you can. Whatever your particular interests are, follow those and talk about them. The more that you get into what you want to study, the more that you're reading, that you're doing around that, all of the things that everyone's been saying, podcasts, videos, books, articles, documentaries, the whole shebang. The more of that you're consuming, the better you're going to be. The better prepared you're going to be, the more confident you're going to be that you've chosen the right subjects, the better you're going to be preparing for your personal statements, for your interviews. The more you talk about those things that you love with other people or at other people if they don't care about those things, you're practicing being able to explain your thoughts really well, and that will help you if you end up getting an interview with us. And wherever you go, you're building up brilliant university-ready study skills that are going to set you off wherever you end up going and put you in the best possible position to succeed and enjoy university life. It sounds like a lot, yeah, because you've got schoolwork, you've got everything to go that's going on right now, but you're applying here to 2 of the top 10 universities in the world. If you've got the capability to manage that workload and to explore those ideas, that's phenomenal. Yeah, you're applying to one of the best places in the entirety of this planet, and you're going to be competitive in doing so. If you've got those A-level results, if you've got those skills that you're building up, that's something to shout about. That's something to be proud of. So let your geek off the chain. Don't let anybody stop you. Don't let anyone make you feel bad for loving learning. Go and enjoy what you're doing.
Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed doing this today with the 4 of you. Thank you so much. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd for your honesty, your engagement, and for being you, and for your curiosity and your interest in helping others. It makes me want to go back to university and want to learn some more. Ond am nawr, diolch o galon I chi gyd. Am yn fawr. Thank you very much, everybody.
Diolch yn fawr. Hwyl.
Diolch.
Diolch yn fawr iawn am yr holl wybodaeth arbennig yna. Thank you to all our panel members. Gobeithio bod y cyfan wedi lleddfu rhywfaint ar unrhyw bryderon neu ofnau sy gyda chi. I really hope that the last couple of days have made the transition into higher education a little less daunting for you all. Now let's move on to the final session of today's conference, but by no means the least important. Cewch ddewis eto nawr. You can now choose between addasu ar gyfer bywyd yn y brifysgol, adjusting to university life Q&A, where you'll hear from those who have been there before. Molly Rowlands in her first year at Durham University, Ryan Lenihan, who's just started at Cardiff University, hefyd Rosa Humphreys, who's in her second year at Cambridge, a Brennig Davis, who's recently graduated from Mansfield College, Oxford. They'll talk you through what their transition to university from school or college was like, and what top tips they'd give you to help you settle into university. Cyngor parod felly, yn seiliedig ar ei profiad hwy. Hefyd, a sesiwn holi ag ateb am yr ysgolion haf, or the other option is the live Q&A session, applying for international courses and summer schools. A chofiwch yr e-bost na I holi cwestiwn. Remember that email to send in a question. We'll be welcoming Dr. Matt Williams from the University of Oxford, Liam Raman from Equal Education, and Rowena Boddington from the UK-US Fulbright Commission. Mae gan Liam brofiad helaeth o helpu myfyrwyr I astudio yn yr Unol Daleithiau. Yes, Liam has vast experience in helping students to study in the US. You'll also hear from Megan Breyer and Katie Noyle, who took part in the International Online Summer School last July. Ac fel gyda'r digwyddiadau byw eraill, as with the other live events, any questions can also be provided in the chat function of the team's live event. We'll aim to answer as many of your questions as possible, but will publish all questions and answers in the coming days. Caiff pob un I ateb maes o law. Ewch i'r lobby felly, so head over to the lobby, select your choice of Q&A, and head over to the Teams meeting for the live Q&A.